Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Carl from Planet 40k, and today we're going to be doing our unit review for the Canoptek Spyders. The Canoptek Spyders are 4 power level a model, or 60 points each if you're doing points. You can take them individually or in units of up to 3 models. These guys are one of your elite slot options, which feels like quite a crowded part of the codex, as this book has 14 elite choices in total currently. Okay, so let's get stuck into the unit data sheet then. So movement is 6 inch, weapon skill 4+, ballistic skill 4+, strength 6, toughness 6, wound 6, attacks 5, leadership 10 and a 3+ save. So in terms of its keywords, it's got the fly keywords, which will be handy for moving over terrain or other models in the battle. It can also be used to get into engagement range with flyers too if needed. Secondly, it's got the Canoptek keyword. This will massively come into play and we'll discuss why later in the Tactica section, so stay tuned for that. Then it has the monster keyword, which allows you to shoot your weapons within engagement range, although you can only be firing at the unit that the spider's in combat with unless you obviously destroy them. So some really nice stats there. Next we need to look at the abilities that it has. So the Canoptek Spyders have the following. They have living metal, reanimation protocols, command protocols, explodes, and Scarab Hive. So let's talk about those. Living metal, I'm sure you all know what this is by now, but for those new players out there, living metal simply allows you to regain a lost wound, and this happens in the command phase. Reanimation protocols, well, this isn't that great anymore, especially for a model of 6 wounds. So if you've lost one model in the unit of spiders, then the number of wounds that that model has, which in this case is 6 wounds, you effectively get 6 dice and you need to roll a 5+. And in order to get the model back, you need to get it to full wound. So you effectively need all 6 to be a 5+ to get this guy back. So it's pretty tough to do that. And obviously if you don't do it, it's not going to reanimate and it's going to be destroyed. So reanimation for multi-wound models is pretty poor. There are other ways to get the model back, which we'll go over later in the video. If you lose 2 out of 3 spiders in the unit, you've got a slight chance of getting one back, because now you're not just rolling 6 lots of dice, you're now rolling 12 dice. Because you're adding all the wounds together, and you only need 6 5-ups. I say only, that's still pretty hard to do. A Canoptek Reanimator that is close by can modify this roll from a 5+ to a 4+. I thought that's worth the mention, although the Reanimator actually costs 110 points, and you could just buy yourself another 2 spiders for 120. So I'm not sure if that's worth it really. Command protocols. So this is, if your army has a noble as its warlord, you gain access to command protocols. So before the game, you've got 6 command protocols that you secretly select, and you allocate 1 for each battle round. Then each battle round you reveal your command protocol to your opponent, and within that protocol there are 2 choices called directives. You then select one of those directives to use in the battle round. Units need to be within 6 inches of any Necron character to be able to benefit from the directive. Pretty much all units in the Codex have this ability except for the Catan shards. The explode ability is quite common for vehicles and monsters. This is where once the vehicle or monster is destroyed, you roll a d6, and in this case on a 6 it explodes, causing a mortal wound to all units within 3 inches. Then finally, Scarab Hive. This is unique to the Canoptek Spyder. In your command phase, you select a Scarab Swarm that is within 6 inches of this unit, and you basically reanimate a Scarab that was destroyed earlier in the battle. So a nice little synergy there with those Scarabs. And they're pretty good at grabbing objectives and staying out of line of sight, so it can be handy for you. Okay, so next we go on to the war gear, starting with the weapons. The Spyder is armed with automaton claws. So it's a melee weapon at strength +2, which makes it a strength 8, -3 AP and 2 damage. So this thing has 5 attacks base, and it hits on 4s, so you're going to miss half of them without any buffs. Once you do hit, the strength of the weapon is 8, so that's pretty huge because you'll be wounding all common toughness 4 models on a 2+. And then with that -3 AP modifier, it leaves barely any room to save their models, so unless they've got invuns, they're not very likely to be saved. Then the damage 2 is handy, as there's a lot of 2 wounded Primaris Marines lurking around the game at present. You can upgrade the model with 2 particle beamers. So these beamers are 18 inch range, assault 6, so that's each, so it's a total of 12 shots. Strength 5, no AP and just 1 damage. So you're spraying out 12 shots at 18 inch. Again, you're hitting on 4, so you're going to miss half of them without any buffs. Strength 5 will be wounding most infantry models on 3s. Toughness 5 models you'll be wounding on 4s. Unfortunately, no AP modifier on this, but This is more of an anti-horde weapon to clear off those weak screens or those bugs, cultists, orc boys, guardsmen. Each particle beamer costs 5 points, so a total of 10 points. I think it's pretty worth it, that one. The next upgrade option is a fabrication claw array. So this actually isn't a weapon, it's at the end of your movement phase, the bearer can repair a Necron Dynasty vehicle that is within 3 inches, and you can repair it D3 wounds, and that model can only be repaired once per turn. So a nice bit of synergy with your vehicles there. So if you've got like a vehicle heavy list, you'd want to sort of separate 3 spiders into 3 separate units rather than have them clumped into one unit, because then you could put the fabricator claw array on each of them and you could be repairing 3 different vehicles per turn. If you've kitted out your spiders to be more of an offensive unit, then you're going to want them lumped together because you're going to gain all the buffs and stratagems. The last upgrade option here is the Gloom Prism, which effectively allows this unit to deny the witch as if it's a psyker in your opponent's psychic phase. This is also 5 points. It's quite handy for us Necrons because we don't have any psykers, so anything like that helps defend us from psykers is kind of handy. So moving on to the tactical side of this unit. So firstly we'll talk about the Technomancer and how it can interact with the Canoptek Spyder. We did do a video reviewing the Technomancer already, so I'll leave a link in the corner if you want to check that one out. So the Technomancer can take a Cryptic Arcana, and there's a few that synergize pretty well in particular with the Spyder. So the first one is called the Failsafe Overcharger, which is where in your command phase you select a Canoptek unit within 9 inches of the Technomancer, i.e. your Spyder unit, and until the start of the next command phase add 1 to the attack's characteristics, and if it's a monster or a vehicle you add D3 attacks. So now you're looking at the Spiders that will have between 6 and 8 attacks each in that unit. Not only that, the Technomancer can take the Canoptek node for 15 points, and any Canoptek units within 6 inches of the Technomancer will gain +1 to hit. That includes both shooting and melee. So again, you're talking between 6 and 8 attacks depending on that D3 roll, and now you're hitting on 3s, not 4s, and most likely wounded on 2s. So this is mega effective against those Primaris units and other elite units, and it's also good against vehicles too. This also synergizes with the Canoptek Doomstalker, who can benefit from the Technomancer's buff, and it can also benefit from the Spyder's buff where it's repairing D3 wounds to vehicles. And those Doomstalkers seem to be the new Doomsday arc in this codex. And if you didn't think all of that was powerful enough, let me dive into the next one, which coincidentally also combines the Technomancer and the Spiders. So instead of adding the Arcana that gives you the D3 more attacks, you can opt for the Phylacterine Hive, which once per battle, when you're using your Rites of Reanimation ability on a core unit, you can instead use it on a Canoptek unit. You can also use it on a Destroyer Cult unit or a Triarch Praetorian unit, but the Spyder is a Canoptek unit, so that's what you're going to be using on this one. This costs you 20 points or 1 power. So for those of you who don't know what Rites of Reanimation is, it's basically where your Technomancer can reanimate 1 model in a core unit within 6 inches of itself, or D3 warriors within 6. So you can actually do this on a Canoptek unit, so you can literally reanimate 1 of your Spiders. So imagine you've got a fully kitted out unit of 3 Spiders, 1 dies during the game, you get your Technomancer within 6, and once per game use the Arcana, stand that Spyder straight back up to 4 wounds, and depending on how you've kitted out the Spyder, it could be anything from 60 points to 80 points that you've just reanimated for the small price of 20 points just for the Arcana. So the Technomancer especially has some really good synergy there. So speaking of other ways to buff the Spiders, you can look at the Dynasty codes. The Novak Dynasty gives you a +1 to the charge rolls, and a -1 AP modifier if the Spyder was charged, did charge, or heroically intervened. That's obviously if you're looking to play more offensive Spiders. Then the Hilak Dynasty gives them objective secured to your whole army, so that's going to be a really tough unit to remove from an objective. In the custom dynasties, there's another one which gives you a +1 to charge, which is called Butchers. And then you can add the Ancient Stir, which grants Canoptek units within the army a +1 to the movement, and also pile-ins and consolidations are 4 inch. So all sorts of little movement buffs there that you can do. Going on to stratagems, there's one that synergizes well too. It's from the strategic playlist called Enslaved Protectors. This effectively gives your Canoptek units heroic intervention, and it only costs 1 CP. So this could be really nasty if you're close enough. Another stratagem, which is actually from the Novak Dynasty, has a stratagem called Blood Rites. So any Necron unit gains +1 to attack in the fight phase. So pair this with what we previously spoke about with the Technomancer, and you've just got a silly number of attacks now. So just before we jump into the conclusion and the rating of the unit, can I just urge you to all hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already. It'll only take a second of your time. So thank you if you're doing that now, and if you've already subscribed, thank you as well. So overall, wow, I'm pretty impressed with this unit in this edition, especially when in all the previous editions this unit kind of stunk. But now I'd argue it's one of the best units in the Codex, and it's all down to the synergy that you can do when it's interacting with units such as the Technomancer. Although even without it, it's a pretty solid standalone unit anyway. It's got good stats, it's versatile in the sense that it can be an anti-horde, it can chew through elite units, it can chew through monsters, it can go through vehicles, it can stay back and repair. On top of that, you can use them as a little anti-psycho when needed, you can regain scarabs. So it's just become this mega do-it-all unit within the book, and the points cost seems really fair, comparing them to, you know, other elite monster units such as the Catan Shards that aren't really that usable in smaller games due to them being 350 points. There is one slight drawback with this unit, is no invuln, and obviously it's not a vehicle, so it's not going to have any quantum shielding, but it does have that living metal, and that's going to be really handy. All in all, I've got to go high with this rating as I'm comparing this unit to all other units in the Codex itself. So I'm going to be giving these Canoptek Spyders a Planet 40k rating of 5 out of 5. Do you agree with this rating? What rating would you give it? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to drop us a like and check out our Patreon if you haven't already. Links in the description for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.